Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Craig. I am your host, Craig DeLuz. We very much appreciate you tuning in this morning. Before we get started, I would like to offer, on behalf of the Firearms Policy Coalition, our heartfelt condolences and prayers to all those who were affected by the shooting in Parkland, Florida yesterday. It is never easy when depraved individuals seek to inflict harm on the innocent. We always grieve, and it hurts our hearts. I think all of us, no matter what side of the discussion you may be on when it comes to the Second Amendment or it comes to gun rights or gun control, everybody grieves when incidents like this happen. And so we just want to make sure that we offer our prayers and our condolences. Now, before we get started in the conversation, please take a moment. Please like and share this video feed so that your friends can participate in the conversation, because I think this is something that we really need to talk about. And I'm going to tell you, as we get into today's topic, yesterday, Senator Chris Murphy, he got up and he gave a speech on the floor of the U.S. Senate yesterday. He had something to say that you're going to be surprised about, but I happen to agree with him. That's right. I happen to agree with him. Now, I know some of you are like, I can't believe this. You want to turn it off. I'm just going to ask you, do me a favor, stick with me, and I'll bet when it's all said and done, you'll agree with me too. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
As we speak, there is a horrific scene playing out at a high school in South Florida. Turn on your television right now, you're going to see scenes of children running for their lives. What looks to be the 19th school shooting in this country, and we have not even hit March. I'm coming to the floor to talk about something else, but let me just note once again for my colleagues that this happens nowhere else other than the United States of America. This epidemic of mass slaughter, this scourge of school shooting after school shooting. It only happens here not because of coincidence, not because of bad luck, but as a consequence of our inaction.
I happen to agree with him. I happen to agree that these things are happening as a consequence of our inaction. Now, it's been brought up that this is like the 19th school shooting or the 18th school shooting just this year alone. Now, we know that a bunch of the incidents that are included in that number are not really school shootings. Some of them are incidents where an individual has committed suicide or a shooting that took place when no one was on campus or where no one was injured. But nonetheless, there have been more school shootings that have taken place than at this time any year before. Now, once again, I'm going to ask you to stay with me. Here's another story that talks about just some of those school shootings.
We do have more now on some of the shootings that have taken place both at schools and elsewhere in the past few years, as we have reported on, and Don Daler has more on this.
January 23rd, a young gunman opens fire inside a crowded school atrium in Kentucky, killing 2 students and wounding 14 others.
I saw there was a lot of blood everywhere, and then people were getting shoved down.
December 7th, at a high school in Aztec, New Mexico, another young gunman shoots and kills 2 of his classmates.
I feel bad for all the kids who got hurt and for the kids who were in the shooting.
November 14th, a gunman in Tehama County, California, fires 30 rounds into an elementary school as children hide beneath their desks. None of the school kids died, but after the gunman was killed by police, they discovered earlier he had murdered 5 people, including his wife.
We located her dead body concealed under the floor of the residence. We believe that's probably what started this whole event.
What starts these events is always the subject of detective work, community second-guessing, and familial agonizing. Perhaps the biggest question, why is this happening more frequently? This year, there have already been 18 school shootings. There were 7 by this time last year. Since 2013, the number of school shootings has steadily risen, with the sole exception being 2016, when there were only 48. Only, as if that was in any way acceptable or normal.
All right, you want to know? You want to know what the action is we're supposed to take? Because clearly we need to take action. The first thing that we need to do is we need to get rid of gun-free school zones. That's right. Think about it. I mean, the Gun-Free School Zone Act has been in place for a while, but what happens when we create a gun-free school zone? We tell people that this is an area where you will meet little to no resistance. Clearly, the Federal Gun-Free School Zone Act hasn't had the impact that they desired. Clearly, the magical sign that takes place there hasn't had any effect. Now, I've been talking about this for years. In fact, 4 years ago, I did a commentary on this very same subject. And guess what? It hasn't gotten better. It's only gotten worse. Now, for those of you who don't know what gun-free zones are, let me explain them to you. They're these mythical places where bad people with guns are unable to go because of the magical signs that are placed at their entrances. Now, these mythical signs have on them special enchantments that read gun-free zones, and they derive their mysterious powers from a not-so-powerful magic known as wishful thinking. Look, the truth is, gun-free zones are just another way for the anti-gun movement to disarm law-abiding citizens and deprive us of our right to bear arms. And while they claim that the goal is to create a safer environment for those within these zones, history has proven that the exact opposite is what tends to occur. Instead of creating safe environments where no firearms are located, they actually create target-rich environments where only criminals have guns. Because, let's be honest, criminals could care less about some damn sign. And one doesn't have to go too far to find evidence to support this conclusion. The mass shooting at Columbine High School took place in a gun-free zone. The Fort Hood massacre, gun-free zone. Virginia Tech massacre, gun-free zone. Aurora, Colorado, gun-free zone. Naval Shipyard, gun-free zone. And Sandy Hook Elementary, gun-free zone. And then there's the largest gun-free zones in the country, the cities of New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles, which continually top the list of U.S. cities with the highest murder rates. Now, that was 4 years ago. I don't even have to talk about Tehama County. I don't have to talk about the shooting that took place in San Bernardino. I don't even need to talk about the shooting that occurred yesterday. The fact is, gun-free zones have created an environment. You're marketing to the entire evil world who might want to go and do something. You're marketing to the mentally ill. You're marketing to terrorists. You're marketing to criminals. Hey, here's a place where you can go after our most innocent. And guess what? They are completely vulnerable. That's what gun-free zones have done in this country, in particular here in the state of California. Here's the other thing that I think we need to do. We need to really seriously contemplate security measures at schools. Think about this. I go into state legislatures here in Nevada and other states, right? I go into courthouses dealing with court cases. Every time I go in, there are armed guards right there at the front entrance. There's limited numbers of ways in, and there's limited numbers of ways out. And there generally is either a metal detector or armed guards at every single one of those egresses. Every single one. So are you going to tell me that the California legislators and their staff are more important to us than our children? Really? Are you going to tell me that judges are more important to us than our children? I don't understand. If a school is considered a sensitive place, then maybe we ought to be considering whether or not we're going to fund security for school campuses. Maybe we ought to be considering whether or not we're going to put in security measures like metal detectors, like making sure that school systems are set up such that there's only one, there's limited numbers of ways for people to get access to the campus. How did this guy get on campus with an AR? With an AR? How did he get on school grounds with an AR? Somebody explain that to me. If they had security. See, here's the thing, folks. And this is what's frustrating. You know, I've done a couple of interviews on this particular topic on the issue of school shootings. And the thing is that all they ever talk about is we want to ban guns. Well, guess what? You've banned guns. You've banned them from different places. And so far, it has had no effect. In fact, it's done the exact opposite. It's told people exactly where to go if you want to inflict the most harm with the least amount of resistance. That's what it tells people. You know what? Maybe it's time, and I know you guys don't want to hear this, but maybe it's time that we did the exact opposite. Maybe it's time that we met force with force, that we let people know if you go to a school campus to harm our children, chances are you're going to catch a hot one. Chances are you're going to meet resistance. Therefore, if you cowards are looking to inflict damage, guess what? Our schools, our children, that's not the place for you to go. Do we value our children? Then why don't we put the same protections in place for them that we do for these politicians in Sacramento or in our various city halls? Why don't we do that? Why? Well, because that's not popular. Michael Bloomberg isn't putting up money for that. Every town isn't funding that. They're not electing politicians to do that. They're electing politicians to ban our guns, to disarm law-abiding citizens. That's where their money's going. Yeah, I agree, Mr. Murphy. We ought to be doing something. That something may not be what you think it is, but we should be doing something. We've tried it your way, and guess what? Things have just gotten worse. Hey, look, it's time to soldier up, period. If you care about your kids, it's time to elect people to office who care about them too, who are willing to defend them and do what it takes to make sure that they are safe in school. That's my perspective. That's how I see it as a parent. As a school board member, that's how I see it. Unfortunately, the gun-grabbing politicians don't. Anyway, folks, we're going to be talking about this. I've got so many coffees in a row talking about so many of the things that have been going on since this has been happening. Look, you got to do me a favor. You got to subscribe. You got to like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need you guys to help us spread the word, because this is the sort of conversation that we need to be having. We need to not cower in the back and be like, oh, well, we can't talk about this because it's so sensitive. No, if we care about our children, now's the time to stand up. Now's the time to let the politicians know we want you to take defending our children seriously. Don't disarm faculty members or staff members who've gone through the training that they need to go through because they want to defend themselves and those around them. If they're willing to put their lives on the line to defend our children, then guess what? They ought to be properly prepared and resourced to do so. If our school board members, if they want to put things in place to make sure that our children are safe, then they ought to be given the funding to do so. Stop trying to disarm law-abiding citizens. What you've been trying to do hasn't worked, and it won't work, and it's only making things worse. And you may want to say that those of us who advocate on behalf of the Second Amendment are the problem. Well, let me tell you something. Look, those of you who would seek to disarm law-abiding citizens who day after day put our children at risk, you are the ones with blood on your hands. So there. How about that? Anyway, let folks know. Firearms Policy Coalition. We are the home in the fight for civil rights. We got to use them or we're going to lose them. Stay free.
If you like our videos, follow, subscribe, like, and share.